This is the dive of the LCU in Oahu, Hawaii. LCU stands for Landing Craft Utility. Think of Saving Private Ryan, when the troops pull up when they get dropped off on the beach. This is the craft that does that. The craft is actually upside down, so as you approach it, the most typical way is to come in from the side on the right. I happened to come in from the back. This was my first time in this site, and I didn't know any better, so I swam in through the back, penetrated up through the wheelhouse and through some of the cabin spaces. It's definitely a little bit tight in there. They recommend gloves, but the reward for this dive and why it's so popular are the white fin or white-tipped reef sharks. There's normally a couple hanging out underneath here. This is one of those dives. Typically I would hang back and be towards the back. This is a dive I say go first and go fast, because if you can get in there first, you'll have these guys all to yourself, and depending on how experienced the group is, you get a lot of people in there. The sharks decide they no longer want to play and they will disappear. So if you can get there first, your chances of actually seeing these sharks and getting some time to hang out with them is significantly improved. These guys could care less that I was there. They were not concerned about me. They were not frightened by me. I guess they see enough divers each day that it really didn't faze them. We hung out for several minutes there. I was not even the first group there. There was some of the other divers who got in there before me. But we were able to hang out, watch the sharks. They swam by. I will point out that the camera here is on a pole, so it's a good 3 feet or more from my body. I'm not actually that close to the sharks. I like sharks and all, but I'm trying to give them a little bit of room. But they were actually swimming up to me, kind of checking me out. So you just kind of stand still and don't make a lot of panicky noise and don't stir up the bottom. They'll hang out. Yeah, it is pretty silty in there, so if you do start to kick and swim around, it will silt up the thing and you'll lose visibility. But yeah, the sharks, they pretty much didn't care that we were there. They kind of swam off and did their thing. Towards the end of the dive, they hung out towards the back there. I guess that's the bow of the ship. But they did their thing. The whole interior of this is pretty big and wide open, so even if you're not a wreck diver and you don't like confined spaces, it's pretty big and open. Lots of light gets in. You're not really claustrophobic, so if the novices out there, or probably not novice, but your less experienced wreck divers or people who are maybe a little bit nervous about swimming with sharks, it is pretty open. If, for example, you decide that you don't want to be around the sharks, you can easily step outside. There's not any obstructions or anything really keeping you in there. Definitely, it gets more silty here towards the bow of the ship, away from the anchor point. Total depth of this dive is 85 feet, so you don't have a ton of bottom time. But I was able to explore pretty much the entire wreck before hitting my nitrogen limits. They have these Z blocks. These are actually fabricated concrete blocks that they put down to try to create an artificial reef here. So they pretty much surround the entire area. There are lots of fish and eels and all kinds of things that hang out in these blocks. Occasionally the sharks will be out here as well. I always liked that picture because there was a story about how more people have been killed by selfie sticks than sharks. I thought it was funny that I had a selfie stick and a shark, so I guess my chances of dying were doubled. Some more of me penetrating the actual wreck, getting up into the wheelhouse. It's pretty tight, a lot of marine growth in here, so you definitely don't want to be touching anything. Have really good buoyancy control, but it's fun to explore. You can get in a couple different ways. I believe I'm going back out the aft of the ship here. This is how I initially came in, and this is near where the anchor is, where you first come in for the dive. Overall, it's a pretty big open wreck. The day I did it, there were not a ton of fish there. I pretty much spent most of the time watching the sharks and exploring up through the wreck. It does get a little bit dark in here. The various guidebooks, etc., say that you need flashlights, but I was able to see pretty well without any kind of external light source. This is at the end of the dive. The sharks had just decided to kind of lay down in that silty area. I guess most of the people had left at this point, so they were no longer around. I believe they described that the larger one was the female, the smaller one was the male. I'm not by no means a shark expert, so I don't know how true any of that was. I also read that on top of the LCU here, that the fish swim upside down. I did not witness that, and I have no understanding of why that would be. You can see that the anchor line comes right down to the back quarter there of the LCU vessel. So when you come out of the boat, you're coming right down onto the wreck and not really having to swim much at all.